In Module 2, Lesson 8, we move on to using weights and masses in word problems. And we're going to do some that involve using reading of a dial for a scale, like we talked about in the last lesson, and sometimes I will just be given the weight or the mass. And so I'm going to take a look at one example of each of those here and walk you through them, and they'll be similar to ones that we did in class. And then I'll send you off on your own to practice on your homework. And of course, if you have any questions at the end, let me know. So let's take a look at, I think this is the reverse order of the way that they did it on the problem set, but let's do one where we are given the weight first. So Mr. Burnell, actually, you know what? Let's use my own kids' names here. Kellen weighs, I have to guess his weight in kilograms here because I'm not exactly sure. So we'll call it like 27. It's probably not that much. 23 kilograms. Kieran weighs 18 kilograms. How much do they weigh together? Okay, so that's the first question. I'll do two questions associated to this one, and a bunch of different ways that we could solve that. But I think in this case, it's most straightforward just to add them, right? Because it's clearly an addition. We're taking two things that have the same unit of measure. They're both measured in kilograms, and so we can just add them. And the way we do that, the most efficient way to do that is to stack them on top of each other, just like this, with the bigger one on top. 23 kilograms, and then 18 kilograms. Always important. Oh, pen is acting up on me again. It's always important to make sure that you're adding things with the same, that are the same measure, right? We wouldn't want to add 18 kilograms to 23 grams because if we did that, we wouldn't be comparing the same thing. We'd have to change one of those to make sure that we're measuring either in grams or in kilograms, so we can't mix them. We're just going to add these. So 3 plus 8 is 11. So I put my 1 from the ones place here. I take the 10 and I put it up here in the tens column. And now I have 1 10 plus 2 10s plus another 1 10 is a total of 4. So 41 kilograms is how much they weigh altogether. I might also get a question that says something like, how much less does Tiernan weigh than Kellen? Right. And in that case, I'm finding difference. And so when we find difference, we subtract. And so again, this sort of problem provides a really good review for adding and subtracting, especially multi-digit numbers. So even though you're like, hey, we just did multiplication division, why are we going back to it? Addition and subtraction? Well, it's always good to practice with these methods of adding and subtracting, especially multi-digit numbers, with carrying or regrouping. So we'll take 23 and subtract 18 to find the difference. So if I have 3 of something, I can't take 8 from it. So I need to go over here to the tens. I'll just cross this out. I'll leave 1 10 here, and I'm going to move the other 10 over here and add it to my 3. So I'll do 10 plus 3 is 13. So notice I still have 2 10s like I did here. I had 2 10s. I just have 1 here in the tens column now, and I moved my other one over here to the ones column. 13 minus 8 is 5. And then 10 minus 10 is 0, so I don't have to put anything there. So 5 kilograms. That's the difference. Okay. So that's one type of problem you could get. And I would be perfectly happy if you showed this sort of work as your, we use the read, draw, write process, but the draw could certainly be this work. You wouldn't necessarily need to make a picture for this or a diagram. Now, another type of problem you might get, and I think this is what comes first on the problem set today, looks more like this. Let me take a minute and draw 2 scales here. I'm not going to fill them both in all the way. I'll fill in the parts you need to know, just to save a little time. So you don't, again, like last lesson, I said, you don't need to sit here and watch me draw for 10 minutes. So we're going to measure in grams on both of them. And we'll call this, and this is 0, 20, 30, 40. Oops, I can't do that, sorry. 20, you're gonna count by 20s here, 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, 120, 140, and this would be 160, and then we'll make that 180 as well. It can be 0 or 180. Okay. And we're going to say the hours is, again, this halfway mark is the 5. Actually, no, in this case it's a 10 because we're measuring by 20, so this would be the 10. Now notice I did, I'm counting by 2s in here because again, this spans 20 numbers. So from 40 to 60 is 20, 2, so 42, 44, 46, 48, 50, 52, 54, 56, 58, 60. So notice each of these is 2. And say I'm weighing, these are, I don't know, grapes. And these are apples. And over here, I have a mass of that. And on this side, I'm going to say 50, 100, 150, 200, 250, 300, 350, and again, this would be 400 at the top. It's 0 or 400. So if it makes it all the way around back here, it's 400. So if there was nothing on the scale and it was pointing straight up here, it'd be 0. If there's something on the scale and it's pointing back up here, it's 400. And in this case, halfway between 150 and 200 is 175. And we might have measures of 5 between there. So there's a gap of 25. So 150, 155, 160, 165, 170, 175, 180, 185, 190, 195, 200. So each of these little marks is a measure of 5. And say my arrow went right down here to that one. And my problem might be, how much more do the apples weigh than the grapes? So you have two-step problem a little bit here. The actual work is just one step. You're just going to find the difference. But in order to find the difference, you first have to be able to figure out what both things weigh. And so the grapes over here are 40, and then we go to 50 here at the bigger mark. And then remember, we're counting by 2, so 52. So the grapes are 52 grams. And we can either write out grams or just use G as an abbreviation. And now over here, each mark is worth 5. So the halfway point was right here. So that's 175, 180, 185, 190, 195. So this is 195 grams. And again, I'm asking to find the difference between these two. So how much more do the apples weigh? The real problem you'd see would have a little bit more language in there, but basically the question is how much do the apples weigh? And we can subtract these two things. So we can take 195 and we can subtract 52. And what we're doing is finding the distance between these two numbers, finding the difference. And the way to do that, again, is to subtract. And like I said on the last problem, it's excellent practice for us to review these subtraction skills So in my ones place, if I have 5 of something, I can certainly take 2 from it, and that leaves me with 3. If I have 90, I can take away 50, and I'm left with 40 because 9 minus 5 is 4. And then 100 minus 0 hundreds leaves me with 100. So I have 143 grams of difference. So I would write a sentence at this point that says the apples weigh 143 grams more than the grapes. I believe you also have a problem in the problem set that asks you to use a tape diagram. So let's use one more example to show that. And this sort of work is very similar to the stuff we did in the first module. It's just using weight and mass this time when you're measuring. So let's say, I'll type it so it'll go a little quicker. I estimated that a water bottle, actually no, not a water bottle, we kind of know what that weighs. A gallon of milk weighed 4 kilograms. Draw a tape diagram to show how much 5 gallons of milk weigh all together. So again, this is a straightforward multiplication problem. We can certainly draw a tape diagram to represent it. We'll do the outline going here first. What do we know? We know how many things we have. We have 5 of them, 5 gallons, and each is going to weigh 4. And we're going to look for the total. That's the unknown. So 5 gallons means we have to draw 5 units in here. Again, this is excellent review of what we did in module 1. Again, we're just adding a new element of using weight with it. Each of these gallons is going to weigh 4 kilograms, and we need to find the total. So our multiplication sentence here would be, whoops, wow, I don't know what I'm doing with my 5 there. 5 times 4 kilograms equals some number that we don't know yet. And again, many ways to sort of count this. I'm going to count by 5s 4 times. So 5, 10, 15, 20. My total is 20 kilograms. Now, one really important thing, probably should have led with this in the lesson, and I certainly will in class, is that we have to label our answers. This part right here, this kilogram, is so important, because if we don't put that, then we're not solving anything. We need to know what the weight is, because if I didn't put kilograms, it could very well be pounds, or it could be ounces, or it could be grams, and none of those would be correct. Like, this doesn't weigh 20 pounds, or it doesn't weigh 20 ounces, it doesn't weigh 20 grams. We need to be exact with our units, and we need to make sure that we have them every single time. That's something you're going to hear from me throughout the rest of this lesson and throughout the rest of the year in math and science, because it's really critical. I always expect to have units on answers, because we can't just have numbers. Like, I wouldn't take 20. If somebody wrote that, I would say that's incorrect, because I don't know what that 20 is. I don't know if you mean 20 pounds or 20 ounces or 20 kilograms or 20 tons or whatever. It could be anything. It could be 20 elephants. I don't know if you don't label it. So you have to show your work, and you have to show your units in order to really show that you know the correct answer. The number alone isn't enough to be correct. You always, with these type of problems, have to have a unit as well. And we'll go over that a bunch in class too. So this is not the last you're going to hear of that from me. We'll make sure we talk about that a bunch. All right, guys, I hope that was pretty clear in combination with what we did in class. If not, or if you want me to go over anything again, always ask questions, and you know that at the beginning of each lesson in class, I'm happy to answer them and review what we did the day before if you need.